All right, hello and thank you all for joining us. We're here now with Abbotsford Canucks General Manager Ryan Johnson. If you have a question for Ryan, please indicate so using the raise hand function. We ask that you speak up and we'll get started ASAP here. Please indicate now. We're going to start with Chris Faber.
Hey, Ryan, just wanted to ask, I guess, to start off here, what did you learn about how vital it is having the AHL team close to Vancouver?
Well, it's been an incredible process for a lot of reasons. Obviously, organizationally in a cap era and the flexibility it gives us. I think you guys saw a lot of the movement we were able to do on a daily basis to give us a chance to keep players playing. There's nothing worse than having guys sitting in the stands that you know should be playing hockey and getting games and developing. I think, and I've said this, I think even more importantly was to have our fan base understand organizationally what our landscape looks like, to see guys play here, develop here, and then see them go down the road and play for a big club in Vancouver was something that it was exciting for me to see them kind of jump into that process. And I think just for our province, our community, the Fraser Valley, to really, and although through COVID, we still weren't able to entrench ourselves necessarily in the community with things that we usually like to do and engaging our community, but to see how people got on board with our organization and supported us was an incredible experience. And just unfortunate that we weren't able to bring some playoff hockey here, because I think that would have helped with our growth exponentially.
And we heard from Jim Rutherford kind of talking about the growth of the AHL franchise. He wants to make this one of the best franchises, if not the best franchise in the AHL. I'm sure that's good news for you to hear, and good news to also hear there's a lot of support from ownership as well. How do you do that in this offseason here? What are the first few steps that you want to take with this AHL franchise to get them to being one of the best franchises in the AHL?
Well, I think I really want to take a step back here and do some evaluation myself in regards to what a job done by the business side, Rob Maloney and his group. I think you guys understand how quickly we had to throw this together and build a team, build a front office, and get things in place in our community in Abbotsford Arena, get a lot of behind the scenes things figured out in a short amount of time. And in doing that, we had to prioritize some things and put some things on the back burner that we knew were important. I think we've already had discussions of this with Jim Rutherford and Patrick Oveen and obviously the support from ownership and Michael Doyle. And we've got some things to improve, even just within our building, within our dressing room. Obviously, we'll take another look at our travel situation and things that we learned along the way, that obviously being a little bit isolated, things that we could do better in that regard. There's definitely things that we got to take a step back here and look at, that maybe we had to put on the back burner just because things happened so quickly for us heading into an inaugural season.
We'll go to Jeff Patterson, Rink Wide Podcast.
Ryan, thanks for doing this. Appreciate your time. I know that there were such high hopes organizationally for a long playoff run. I mean, can you just kind of put into words frustration or disappointment that it's all over so suddenly?
Yeah, I'm disappointed. I am. Although, we had a lot of different variables, and as people that live the AHL life, you got to have a lot of help along the way, and dealing with injuries and call-ups and things that a lot of this season we were playing shorthanded, and the way things fell out of training camp, and losing guys on waivers and losing guys to injuries that had been signed to be important parts of this group here. In saying that, you still, I think we built an environment and a structure within our team that even if we had to bring bodies from the East Coast League and come in, felt we had the right bodies that competed and fit in the right way. And as you saw, we we had a very depleted lineup win 9 in a row to give us a chance to host home ice. And so I'm, with all the challenges and adversity and things we faced, and going against a team that's been together for ultimately 2 years and won the Pacific Division last year, I fully expected to go in there and win a series, and extremely disappointed we didn't. Tried to prep guys that were very new to the playoff experience of what the difference between regular season hockey and playoff hockey is, the intensity, the need to manage the game, the emotions that come with it, the discipline. And I felt that there were some players that didn't take in that information and rise to that occasion. But that's my job to do, is to improve us moving forward.
I want to ask you about two players in particular. One is Will Lockwood. You didn't have him. Is there any update on sort of the extent of his injury that kept him out of the last few games in Vancouver? And a lot was made in the market about Jet Wu finishing the season as a forward, and I assume he still has dreams of playing in the NHL, and I would think as a defenseman. So how does the organization view Jet, and what's the message to him as you send him home for the summer?
Well, Will Lockwood was with us in California and skating with us kind of early in his process, but he was there with us with the hopes of playing in the playoffs. Obviously, losing him and Justin Bailey were two key parts to our team with the way they play and the speed and physicality. So that was a big blow to us. But Will is doing well. We expect him to recover. He was, like I said, he had 2 or 3 practices in a small group in California. We expect him to make a full recovery. I think, everything from medically side, thankfully, had cleared out with what he was dealing with. So it was nothing that we expect to be major, and just unfortunate timing, because it was great for him to obviously get a taste and to play some NHL games for an extended time. But he was going to be a big component of our group there in the playoffs. Jet Wu, I mean, I think we've talked extensively with Jet about creating an identity for himself at the pro level. Earlier this year, there were some ups and some downs and some good points, and as we added guys on the back end that whether it came back from injury, we were at a point where we were so depleted up front. We were playing 11 forwards and 7 defensemen, and to get him some more ice and involved and using his assets as his speed and physicality, he embraced the role to play some minutes up front and ended up doing a fantastic job of it. Do we see Jet as a forward moving forward? No, I think Jet is, as I alluded to, is still trying to find his identity as a pro. Obviously a very shortened season last year. We discussed it with him and again this year. And I think for some of our second year players, this was a tough season of coming out of pandemic year where the AHL was a shroud of itself in the way of the taxi squads and what it did diluted the American Hockey League. Well, you saw this year, it was very ramped up. Playing in a very difficult physical Pacific Division with travel was a challenge for a lot of second year players across the AHL, including our own. So we expect Jet to have a big summer, come back with having learned a ton again of his experience this year, and take another step forward. And ultimately, we see him being back on the blue line and continuing to grow in that position.
Next up, we have Patrick Williams, the AHL.com.
Yes, Ryan, thanks for doing this. Just kind of housekeeping issue. Aside from Lockwood and Bailey, what's the health status on the rest of the team going into the summer here?
We've got some guys that are banged up a little bit. Obviously, we'd Phil Giuseppe come back off a broken leg that, he tried to expedite his process to get back to be able to play in the playoffs, and very admirable of him. It's the type of person he is. He tried to get through things quickly and get to a point where it was safe for him to play. Vincent Arsenault, who hadn't played since March, that was able to get back for game one with not a whole lot of preparation, but he seems to be in a good place. I think, from a goaltender situation, Mike, he had a little hand issue, but he's fine. I'm trying to think from the rest of the group on our back end, seemed to be okay. Again, some bumps and bruises. With Will, like I said, I expect him to be fine and take the next few weeks to turn the corner and get back into his summer training. Justin Bailey obviously was out long term with a shoulder injury that we're still making sure that we've got the right process in place for him, but it was a long term. He was done for the season, which again was unfortunate, as you know, was playing a big part of our group over that 9-game stretch that even through a depleted lineup had really taken on a leadership role and a big part of this group. But beyond that, of extensive injuries to guys, I think at this point, nothing beyond those guys of long term.
And then you had mentioned travel as something you might want to assess this summer. Kind of, what do you think worked or maybe didn't work that you might want to tweak for next season from a travel standpoint?
Well, Patrick, I mean, I think, one thing I was very cognizant over the last month, if you look at our schedule, our back and forth to California, one thing that I was really trying to do is keep our group fresh as possible. Being from here in Abbotsford and even to begin a travel day, we bus from Abbotsford early morning to get to Vancouver Airport 2 or 3 hours. So we're already 5 hours probably into our travel before we've even stepped on the plane, and then arriving in LA and 3-hour bus trips then into whether it's Bakersfield or heading to San Diego. It's a wear and tear. We had to leave 2 days prior to games just to make sure we had a practice day in between. And obviously the pandemic played a role in that. Limited flights out of Abbotsford, limited options, from Vancouver into some of these cities, and then being able to get our gear. And it's something we want to take a look at, make sure we're as efficient as possible. But our group, I could say this from Ben Goodman and from piecing together our travel, it wasn't easy. Again, on a short throw together here from spring heading into a season, an inaugural season. So that is one thing I want to make sure we look at. When you lose practice days due to travel, for me, development wise, that's not a positive thing. So just things organizationally, and as we look at scheduling and things that we learned this year and road trips, or can we piece trips together to limit that? Something definitely we'll consider.
We'll move to Rob Simpson, Vancouver Hockey Now.
Hey, Ryan, how are you? Just big picture, Jack Rathbone, and your overall thoughts, and obviously the implications moving ahead for the big club, etc.
I mean, Jack and I almost laugh to this point. I mean, you look at some of the things he faced between injury and COVID and timing of things. We could never get him, I think, to play more than a 5 or 6 game stretch together without facing some sort of injury. Obviously, he took the hit in Bakersfield that had him out for a substantial period of time. So, he and I have endured since I've been working with him in last year's pandemic and being on a taxi squad, coming down to Utica and then finally getting back up, and then the challenges of this year. When you look at Jack in actual amount of pro games and where he is at this point, his games are a lot less than where we'd like to. I think I had him since 2017 of playing actually about 130 or so actual hockey games due to scheduling and pandemics and these things. So our coaching staff here has done a fantastic job of working with him, video and really some of the things that we know we wanted to round out before he becomes an everyday NHL player. And looking forward, I think, finally at this end of the season, to get him a string of games, to get into some playoff games, I think he's at a point where he's going to have to learn the NHL game. He's one of these players that I think, as things get more structured, as you go to the next level, that his assets, the way he skates and moves a puck, gets up ice once he moves the puck and can really create offense from a defenseman is getting in as the third or fourth man on the rush, that I think his next step is to learn that at the next level. It's all intentions right now for us to have him in our group in Vancouver and keep that progression and development going.
And just out of curiosity, based on the previous question about travel, obviously we realize the cost limitations at the AHL level, but how did the Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday work out? Obviously a building conflict, but why no games in Abbotsford? And then also, were you guys going to hang out in Baco for 4 days, or how was that going to work?
Yeah, well, the way this playing series works, it was a building issue within Bakersfield. It's completely within the parameters, as much as we didn't like it, completely in their ability to schedule through the dates that the AHL allows. And from their building availability, that's just, we had to go Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we'd have to wait till Monday for game 3. We also had the issue of playing Thursday and Saturday in Manitoba without knowing where we were going to be until about 10:30, 11 o'clock that night. So we had a lot of moving parts. We used Sunday as a travel day, and we really tried to, in getting obviously Patan and Dries and Podkolzin down, and getting Arsenault and DiGiuseppe and some new guys in. We spent a couple of days trying to prepare these group, and Trent and our coaching staff, of getting these guys back engaged and on board and back into a system and a structure that none of them had been around for a while, and new line mates. And so that was the reasoning behind it was just a building. And had we gone to a game 3, we fully intend to stay in Bakersfield. I felt if we could get, obviously you're 1-0 with 40 seconds left in game 1, but I felt we really would have benefited from that time in Bakersfield, to have 3 full practice days to get our group together and fully understanding the structure and expectation. But unfortunately, we weren't able to do that.
We have time for a couple more here. We'll move to Carol Schramm, Forbes Sports.
Hi, thanks for doing this, Ryan. When you're talking about players that we would get to see up at the NHL level, Spencer Martin's name obviously comes to mind for me. In your first year working with him, I'm interested to hear if you saw an evolution in his game, and from how well he performed in Vancouver this year. I guess we'll be seeing a lot more of him. What can NHL fans expect to see from Martin next season?
Well, traded for him last summer in the hopes that in this situation, I knew we would likely walk into, whether it was a taxi squad situation or a COVID situation, where we're going to really need a third goaltender that had some experience. And I did not want one of our young goaltenders sitting again in Vancouver not playing. So we had seen a lot of him in Syracuse last year. Curtis Sanford had done a great job of some intel on him and what he saw him as a goalie. When he came into this year, obviously we had 3 goalies in Abbotsford. I give Spencer a lot of credit because he had to be patient with his time. He worked his butt off with Curtis Sanford here, impatient as far as getting his starts. I had a lot of conversations with him about that. Never once did he, I want out of here. You got to move me somewhere. He said, I just want to play. I'm going to work and I'm going to bide my time. But when I do, I'll be ready. And was he ever? I mean, when he got the chance to come in, and his immediate performance showed how hard he had worked at his game. Well, he had to be patient. I thought that was a great lesson for young players on our team to see. And then, we saw a lot of growth in his game. And he'll admit the time that he he'd put in, he really felt it, and you could see it in his confidence. And that first round of games that he was able to go up and start in Vancouver, I think you guys could see the poise and the confidence and the quietness in his game. Great experience for him. He came back and built on that here, which is often a struggle for guys when they come down, but again, with his attitude and work ethic. And I was really happy for him at the end of the day. Unfortunately, how it happened with injuries up top, but I was really happy for him to get another chance to go up and play and really stamp, to our organization, to our fan base, that he is the real deal. And we expect him to come in, and nothing is handed. We're going to ask him to come in and be ready and perform again in training camp, but very excited about his future and ultimately of what he could help us with as an organization.
Thanks. And over the last couple of months, we've heard Jim Rutherford say a couple of times how much he has appreciated working with you and the relationship that has developed between you and the new management staff. So I'd like to hear from your point of view, sort of what's changed for you and how things are working out so far under this new regime.
Oh, it's been incredible, obviously, to work alongside Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin, and what they have accomplished and what they had done in Pittsburgh, and bringing some of those values and the foundation here with them. They've given me a lot of responsibility and trust out of the gates. I've tried to just keep my head down and do work and support them in any way I can. Like I said, they've given me a ton of responsibility and trust, which I greatly appreciated and wanted to give that back to them. I'm excited about the summer and what we're going to be able to, what we intend to build and change within our organization and adjust. I think we've got an environment and some value systems that we want to stand on, and I'm excited to get those in place. So the experience right from the gate of even Jim and I sitting in the offices just ourselves in December, and him not knowing me but trusting me to make decisions and make sure our organization was in good hands. I greatly appreciate it, and I'm just looking forward to continuing to work and build an organization that we'll all be proud of.
And we'll go to David Quadrelli, Canucks Army.
Hey Ryan, I'm just wondering what the contract status is of the coaching staff and what your level of confidence is in this staff being the right group to develop prospects.
Yeah, my entire staff here is under contract for next season. Couldn't be happier with the job that they have done since day one, and bringing in this group, their attention to detail, the support they have from our development staff. I think from a coaching standpoint, what went on this season with the challenges and our personnel of developing players and Will Lockwood eventually getting a chance to go up and play, Jack Rathbone within his adversity that he has faced, Danila Klimovich, a young kid coming here at 18 years old, and the time that they put in with him on a daily basis, and the challenges of his cultural adjustment, the language barrier, a new game, new ice surface, to end up with 8 goals and playing in 62 games. And we've got some work, and Danila knows that, but the job that they've done with that group, you look over time, even some of I would say the prospects that we had, and Gadjevich, who 3 years we developed playing in the NHL now. Zach McEwen developed over 3 years playing in the NHL. Cole Lind, again, developed, lose him in the expansion draft. Guys that we've lost in waivers or expansion that really, you see from year one to where they ended up and now being NHL players. We want more. We want more young players here. We want to develop NHL players, and that's how you build a Stanley Cup team. Again, I think this is as fine as a coaching job to have that many players or key players that never made it here or didn't, whether through injury or being called up, to win 29 games since early January with a depleted lineup to give us a chance to have home ice advantage and possibly finish third. You look at you have to be a structured coaching staff. You have to have a set of values in place that players come in and execute every day. And to be able to do that with players coming in and out, I don't think people realize how hard that is on a coaching staff on a daily basis. So in saying that, disappointed still sitting here that we're not playing playoff games here. But when you sit back and look at from development to even, I think we've taken a lot of pride as an organization of having players come here and have career years that maybe are on a downfall, that are still young, that maybe didn't have a great experience. And I can go 3 or 4 years back on players that, and Justin Bailey's one of them, a high pick that didn't work out, but has turned into a heck of a player. You got guys here, Sheldon Rempel, that came in here that scored 4 goals in each of his last 2 seasons, comes in here and works with our group and has 30 plus. Sheldon Dries, and you could go on with guys that are still relatively young, that this coaching staff is able to get the best out of. And I'm proud of them as far as what they were able to do through all the adversity and almost win 40 games in a very, very tough division. Yet we're all disappointed. We feel like we should be playing, and sometimes you need a little luck, but I'm disappointed. And our group knows that, our players know that.
And just a quick follow-up, if I may. What did you see from Danila Klimovich this season? And I guess what ultimately went into the decision for him to not play playoffs?
Well, Danila's come a long way. Obviously being a draft pick this past summer, coming into a skills camp and unable to have a development camp, but to get our hands on him very quickly and to see his assets and what he brings to the table. Also recognizing a lot of the basic understandings of the game, we had a long way to go. Ultimately, the decision to keep him here was, do we send him to major junior where those habits continue to get worse? And does he score a ton of goals, but doing it maybe the wrong way? That was a decision that I felt it wasn't the right thing, that he could have a staff here that has developed players, that works with young players. I've got a development staff on the side that works with these guys. That we spent every week he was working with our skating coach here to improve his high and speed, the wall work, our coaches and skills group spending time with him on his wall work. If you guys watch every shift of his like I do, and I see and I rewatch, the improvement from where he was in September to where he is now is astronomical. However, in saying that, a lot of the things we need to improve, and I was excited to see him be able to watch Vasily Podkolzin play in real time, of the efficiency of Vasily's wall play in his own zone, how every time he receives a puck and it ends up in a good spot, of managing a game, of managing the blue lines, of understanding pressure and making decisions at an offensive blue line that aren't toe drags and high risk plays. Those are things that we're trying to get this Danila to grow and understand how important they are to his game, and then playing a team game, using his line mates to give and goes, all things that Danila hasn't had to do in a very early in his process. And so we saw a lot of growth in that. We spent a lot of time, even just with his mental approach to the game. He's very hard on himself, extremely hard on himself, to where it's almost detrimental to himself and how the energy that he gives out to his teammates. We spent a lot of time working with him on that body language. And so at some point in development, and when it comes to Danila Klimovich, this is on me, and I make the decisions ultimately on where this goes, is that we wanted the time that had gone on and the energy, and that we felt it got to a point of the season where we needed to see the accountability. We needed something back. We needed a response. And at key parts of the season, especially in the last block of games where we weren't seeing the response, I felt there needed to be some accountability on his behalf, and understand that we've been talking about a lot of things now we're 60 plus games in. But in saying that, that's not, this is a part of a young man's process. We've got a long road with him. This is an incredibly huge summer that Danila is, from our latest discussion, plans to stay here in Vancouver, use our resources. He loves it here. He loved it in Abbotsford and playing alongside this group. It was exciting to see his growth. And like I said, this is an incredibly important summer for him now to dial in on the power and his first 3 strides, and even mentally just getting stronger. And we plan to work with him and assist him with that. And saying, from him being here with us, or had he gone back to major junior, I think we're going to see a much improved product come September in training camp, as opposed to, I think we'd be starting right from scratch.
And we have time for one final follow-up question from Chris Faber, Canucks Army.
Ryan, just wanted to ask about how many players contracts are up at the end of this year. I think it's like 8 of your 10 top scorers are without a contract for next year. I know there's a couple RFAs in there, but you guys have had success with the 3 players that you got out of the WHL this year. You obviously have Arshdeep Bains coming in next year, Linus Carlson as well. Aside from those 2 players, how much do you want to lean on the local talent out of the WHL for something that you want to improve the team with for next year?
It's always going to be important to me. And I think you saw, Chris, with the guys that I brought in here last year, they weren't the highest scorers or the obvious. I wanted to find, character type people that I felt could give us an opportunity, even within those young guys, to really build an environment that was sustainable, that was conducive to people growing and developing in. People loved coming to the rink, but they also felt challenged, and that they had a purpose every day at the rink. And these young guys that came in, and Chase Waters and Canuck Leipert and Tristan Nilsson, and I mean, those guys played a pivotal role in our group, and that's hard to do. As high, I see 2021 high draft picks that aren't able to do that. It's something I want to continue to build. I want local players. I want the Western Hockey League. I want local or provincial or Western kids that want to be here. And it's amazing, even in a short time, the amount of outreach I get from players or agents that say, I want to play there. I can go other places. I want to be a part of that group. That means a lot to me. And so I continue on to focus on that as we move forward in identifying players that aren't just good players, but they're good people that are going to help build an environment here that is important to me. And as far as our group, that whether they're RFAs or expiring contracts, UFA guys that have played a big part this year. I've got an evaluation process to go through. I'm still a bit bitter, disappointed. There were some guys that I felt we had prepared and didn't perform the way I felt they would. But I've got to make some decisions, and ultimately it's not good enough. We're here not playing at this moment, so that's on me. I got to get back to the drawing board here and give us find some players that again give us a chance to have a quality group here, but sustain us as an organization through injuries and things in Vancouver, and help us grow in an environment where our young kids can grow at the same time.
Thank you so much, Ryan, and thank you all for joining us. That will conclude today's media availability. All the best.